Hello friends, for today's video we're going to be looking at some anticipated releases for the month of July. Just like for the June anticipated releases, I am going to be breaking this up into two parts as there are a lot of books that are projected to be released within the summer months. For today we're going to go all the way up through July 11th, and in part 2 we're going to start with July 15th and pick up from there and go all the way through the end of the month. As always, I'll have relevant information and pre-order links in the description bar down below in case you'd like to reference back to it. But officially moving now to releases for July. This first one was called The Art of Vanishing. For those of you who are big video game fans and have been picking up and playing Expedition 33, you are going to see why this one has piqued my interest. Some of the similarities are uncanny. It says something magical is happening inside this museum. Sean's life is the same day in and day out. Frozen in time by his painter father, the legendary Henry Malise. By the way, apologies if I'm pronouncing any of these incorrectly. Jean observes the ebb and flow of museum guests as they take in the works of his father and other masters. But this world takes a mesmerizing turn when Claire, a new museum employee, enters his life. Night after night, Claire moves through the gallery where Sean's paintings hang, mopping the floors, talking softly to herself to stem her loneliness, and gazing admiringly at the masterpieces above. The alluring man in the corner of the Malise, is he watching her? Why does she feel a deepening pull to him, like he can see her truest self, her most profound secrets? In an extraordinary twist of fate, Claire discovers she can step through the frame of Sean's painting and into a bygone era, a lush, verdant snapshot of family life in France in the throes of the First World War. She and Jean begin a seemingly impossible affair, falling in love against the backdrop of the gallery's other paintings come to life. Glittering parties, exhilarating horse races, and windswept beach bluffs, which they can move through together, and where Claire is seemingly the only outside visitor alone in possession of this gift. But as their happiness is threatened by challenges both inside and outside the museum, Claire and Jean find themselves in a fight to preserve the love they've hardly dared to dream of. Will their extraordinary connection defy the confines of reality, or will the forces conspiring against them shatter their carefully curated happiness? If you've played Expedition 33, the amount of things within that is odd almost that this is coming out not too long after that came out. There's a part of me that's like, what's going on with the whole... I almost can't say too much, because if you haven't played that game but you plan to, I don't want to point out the similarities because I don't want to ruin anything, but I'm kind of shocked. Also, I just really want to read this one because it sounds interesting in general, but I was quite caught off guard when I was reading that synopsis. Next up, we have the Nightblood Prince. Two princes, one prophecy, a fate she cannot outrun. The night Faye was born, a prophecy was made. She would one day become the empress of all empresses. Torn from her family as a child and raised in the palace to one day marry the crown prince of the most powerful empire in the land, Faye has only ever known loneliness. When the opportunity arises to seize her own destiny for the first time in her life, Faye sets out to hunt a legendary tiger, knowing it might cost her everything. What she doesn't expect is to fall under the mercy of Shu, the beautiful runaway prince from a rival kingdom. Blessed by the night, harboring a dangerous magic and capable of commanding an army of deadly vampires, Shu could be the key to Faye gaining more than just her freedom. But to outrun destiny, Faye must spark a wave of events that will change the world as she knows it. Torn between two princes and plagued by nightmares of bloodshed, she finds that the stars might be more inescapable and more irresistible than she ever considered before. I do find that the inclusion of vampires is an unexpected one within the rest of that synopsis, but I definitely am not opposed to it. I like that a lot of authors are starting to take things that are familiar within fantasy and then put them in stories that are not necessarily the ones we typically associate with those kinds of tropes or character archetypes. So in this case, having this prophecy and this empress of all empresses and those sorts of things, and then all of a sudden there's somebody that can control vampires, I definitely think that sounds different from other things we've seen before. Now moving into July 8th, this next one is Rose in Chains, and I believe this author is known for being within fanfiction writing spaces. This particular synopsis says the war is over, the dark forces have won, and the hero who was supposed to save them is dead. Captured as her castle is overrun by the enemy, the world, as Bryony Rosewood knows it, is changed forever. Evil has won, and her people face imminent servitude, imprisonment, or death. Stripped of her magic and her freedom, Bryony and the other survivors are quickly sold off to the highest bidders in an auction, and as Evermore's princess, she fetches the highest price. After a fierce bidding war, she's sold to none other than Tovin Hurst, a scion of a family known for their cruelty. Yet despite the horrors of her new world and the role she must learn to play within it, all is not lost. Help and hope may yet arise in the most unlikely of places. I have my radar. I have this one on my radar. I think this is one where if I come to it, I have a feeling that this is going to be very, very popular, so it's going to be difficult to avoid seeing other people's thoughts. But I will, like with a lot of these anticipated releases, I'll keep my eyes out for if I can check it out from the library, if I can try to read it and put it up in a new fantasy releases wrap up, that sort of thing. But I think this is going to be one that's very difficult to get from the library. My guess is there's going to be so many holds on it that it's going to be near impossible. So I'll just have to try really hard to not see anybody else's thoughts. Next up, we have Of Flame and Fury. And I'm just going to read the tagline and mention the mythological creature that's within this, as I think that'll be enough to let people know if this is going to be something that piques their interest. It says, Fourth Wing meets Iron Widow in this enemies to lovers romantic fantasy. It's a debut, and it also features Phoenix Racing. Next up, we have Soulgazer. This is the last one for July 8th, and this one says, with their freedom on the line, a young woman and a rakish prince take their fate into their own hands as they attempt to find a lost mythical isle with the power to save their entire world. Every legend has a beginning. Saoirse yearns to be powerless, cursed from childhood with a volatile magic. She's managed to imprison it within, living under constant terror that one day it will break free, and it does, changing everything. Horrified at her loss of control, Saoirse's parents offer her hand to the cold and ruthless Stone King. Knowing she'll never survive such a cruel man, Saoirse realizes there's only one path forward. She must break her curse. On the eve of her wedding, Saoirse seeks out the legendary Wolf of the Wild, Phelan, a feral, silver-tongued pirate. He swears to help rid her of deadly magic if she'll use it to locate a lost mythical isle. Crafted by the slaughtered gods, it's the only land that could absorb her power. But Saoirse knows better than to trust a pirate's word. With the wrath of her disgraced father and scorned betrothed chasing them, Saoirse adds one last condition to protect herself. If Phelan wants her on his ship, he'll have to marry her first. Obviously, this one definitely seems to have more fantasy romance leanings. This last one, less so. This seems to be much more science fiction fantasy. And one of the comp titles is actually Scythe by Neil Shusterman, which is not surprising when you hear the synopsis. So the title of the book is Erased, and the synopsis said, Seth lives in a world meticulously engineered for efficiency. Every decision is optimized by the nanochip embedded beneath his skin. The chip promises safety, health, and order, but Seth has always felt like an outlier, and as graduation approaches, he faces a choice: embrace the path set before him, or question the system that governs every aspect of life. When Seth lands his dream job, the truth behind Nextech, the corporation controlling the nanochips, begins to unravel. Alongside Emma, a trusted ally, and James, the conflicted inventor of the technology itself, Seth discovers a plan that is far darker than he could have imagined, one that threatens to strip away the last remnants of free will. But uncovering the truth is only the beginning. In a society where every movement is tracked, every emotion analyzed, and every relationship predetermined, rebellion isn't just dangerous, it's nearly impossible. Erased is a captivating exploration of choice, control, and the price of a perfect society. In a world where freedom is a memory, Seth must decide, will he play by the rules or risk everything to rewrite them? This one, I think its synopsis certainly sounds similar to others that explore those very topics, the ideas of choice and control, especially in futuristic societies, that technology plays a significant role within. However, I'm always open to seeing how authors take some of these familiar what-if scenarios and what they do with those and how they really tap into those themes. So even though it doesn't necessarily sound like the most unique of scenarios and setups, I'm still very eager to see how this one plays out. But that's it for the anticipated releases for the first half of July. As noted, we'll be picking back up with July 15th and then looking at the releases for the rest of the month. If you have any from within this time period, though, that you'd like to mention that I did not, feel free to do so. And as stated at the beginning, I will have all of the projected release dates as well as pre-order links in the description in case you'd like to reference back to those. But anyway, thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you later. Bye.